What's up guys and welcome back to another how to play at a high level video. Today we're going to be focusing on Ancient, and by the end of this video you're going to understand how to be an effective rotator, why playing for mid and playing for B is so important, and why playing slow on T side is so powerful. I also want to mention a lot of you in the comments have been asking what maps I'm using. I am using Refrag.gg. It's a server provider where you can go into maps and they have individual nades like this. Let's say you want to smoke bottom mid, you want to figure out a lineup for this, you come up to the smoke, you hit E on it, you can come over here towards where it's showing you, hit E on this guy, you can throw the nade, and it basically shows you the lineup, shows you the position where you can throw stuff. Let's say I want to smoke donut, come over here, hit E, it shows you where I can go, and it basically shows you how to throw smokes on every single map. But yeah, this is just a good way of learning and training utility. I do have some free trial codes in the description. If you want to take those codes and go to the website, you get a few free days. And if you want to go ahead and buy the service, you can use code POLO for 15% off. I have also been doing coaching on my Twitch if you want to go ahead and check that out. But with that being said, let's get into the video. So first, let's talk about mid and B control. So if you want to take mid, generally what that's going to look like is a bottom mid smoke and a Molotov. How most teams will throw it at a high level is they'll end up doing the spawn-based ones. Now, I'm not going to go into every single smoke that you can throw spawn-based, but let's say you want to throw this one. You go over here, you aim here, and you shift walk jump throw. This is how pro teams are doing it because the T spawns are so quick that you actually need to throw it from spawn if you want to be able to take mid control consistently. They'll usually follow that up with a Molotov that goes over here into this little cubby. So after this util, they can't be peeking mid, they can't be close in the cubby, and now you have pretty much all of mid control. Now Ts will sometimes nade the smoke and try and pick you on the cross, you just have to be very aware of that. But at a base level, this is how you'll see teams taking mid. Now this is an extremely important concept when you're taking mid control. If you take mid, it doesn't really matter if you don't have towards B control because the Ts can just come up and shoot you in the back. This is where your B player will come into play, and your B player will throw some util to deny cheetah. So this will normally look like this Molotov, this grenade, and boom. Now if they run up cheetah, they have to smoke this molly. Sometimes that nade will actually hit them and slow them down in the molly. So if they don't smoke the Molotov, they can actually tank for 100 damage, and you can get this kill as a B player. Now, after this B player has done this util, he can go ahead and smoke off cat, and at a base level, this is how you hold on to mid. Another extremely important thing to realize is as the cheetah player, if you are going to be playing here and let's say the Ts throw a smoke for you, you need to communicate to your mid players that, hey, they can peek off cat. This is a communication that I see a ton of cheetah players getting wrong, and this is extremely, extremely important because let's say I'm the cheetah player and I don't communicate this, my mid players will say, oh, I have a player in cheetah, he has my cat, but you don't. So you have to communicate this as a cheetah player. But anyway, after you throw the smoke, you can now come out here over towards mid. You can support the mid fight if the Ts are fighting for mid. If you choose not to smoke this off, your teammates from mid can come jump up cat. You can have your B site player throw some sort of flash like this. That just pops in front of the cubby. Pops generally around this area. So now if you're fighting down B, your cat players can come up. Anyone down B is blind. You're not going to be because of the way the flash pops. And you can just support your team in taking down towards B. Now, after you take mid and B control, you have to understand what is important to hold. So do I want to play in towards B? Do I want to have to waste all the smokes on bottom B and slow down the Ts? Or is it better to just spot over here, jiggle, do a little bit of this while you have two players holding towards mid? They can chain smoke mid. And pretty much what you'll see pro teams doing is they'll make a decision, do I want to chain smoke bottom B or do I want to chain smoke bottom mid? And from the T side's perspective, this is going to decide where they go. Now, let's say you chain smoke bottom mid and the Ts were like, yo, let's go mid this round, guys, and you keep chain smoking bottom mid right. This will delay the T's default into a point where either they have to decide, do we want to go back towards B because they're just playing on mid control? Do we want to have to walk out A and deal with an op potentially? Or do we want to force it through the mid smokes after they have exhausted all of their smokes on mid? But now as CTs, you have to make a decision. How are we going to hold mid? What setups are we going to do? So a common mid setup in pro play will be one guy over here towards an off angle on cat and one guy over here playing anti-flash, ready to peek on this guy's contact. Now, normally what that will look like is this guy gets contact, this guy will peek, and from the T's perspective, he's working out mid, right? He sees this guy on an off angle, commits to this fight, and now you peek from down here, and this should be essentially a guaranteed one-for-one trade. Let's say that the Ts are going to be trying to walk out mid, and there's multiple numbers here. This guy, if he gets his first kill, and someone's swinging out to trade him, this is how you will chain together a mid hold off of a good setup. Because if this guy gets his first kill, you peek, you kill the second guy who's trying to trade, and now at this point, it's a 5v3, you should be winning this round. Now, let's say you want to play on B control. After you've taken mid, one of the mid guys could come over towards house and spot it. He could play towards donut and just make sure that the Ts can't jump up cat to try and flank your B guys. And your B guys can play some sort of setup where, let's say, there's a guy here in this little off angle, but the thing with this angle is that he's extremely susceptible to any flashes over the doors. So you have a guy walk down and play in this corner after the door is smoked, and he'll just sit here and play anti-flash. So how this will generally play out is, let's say a guy flashes over the doors, this guy's playing anti-flash, this guy over here will get blind, he'll just spray his gun at the doorway, you are unblind, so you will come over here and kill these guys. So between this So between this guy spraying his gun at the doorway and you not being blind and killing anyone trying to come through the doorway, this is another way that you can chain together a hold when the T's try and retake an area of the map that you have already taken. And the concept of playing anti-flash in these scenarios is extremely important as well, because you really don't want a $200 piece of utility completely annihilating your setup and nullifying all the utility and control that you've just taken. Now, the reason that I haven't really talked about A in this scenario is because if you're going to be taking towards mid and you're going to be taking towards B, you're going to need to exhaust a lot of utility. You're going to need to exhaust a lot of numbers. You want to guarantee that you're getting this control if you're playing this round. So as an A player, what this will look like is the A player will either support towards mid and play retake from donut, or you'll just put the opper over at A and he'll play retake. He'll either play CT, he can play in temple at this pixel angle, or he can play in donut and sit over here. Now, let's say you don't want to play for mid and you also don't want to play for B. And this is one of the important concepts with Ancient is you want to fight for mid and B early, or you don't want to fight for either early. You still want to throw the bottom mid smoke, you still want to throw the molly, but you want to make the decision based on what you think the T's are going to do. If you think they're going to run out mid a ton, you probably want this A player fighting mid with you, so you have 3 people mid trying to stuff mid. And if you think they're going to be trying to take B and take cat quick, then you might want to start 3 towards B, and what that will look like is, let's say an opper's over here dealing with the ramp, you have 2 people towards Cheetah, and your mid guy is throwing util so that they can't jump up this cat box. And then you can play some sort of bait setup in Cheetah, where you have one guy maybe here, one guy jiggling in the doorway, and again, this is how you chain together a hold on an area of the map as 2 people. You have one guy taking contact first, you have one guy not taking any contact at all, and this guy is going to be playing off of his teammate. Now, when you're in a round where you're not really playing on mid and you're not really playing on B, there's a couple reasons why you'd want to do this. Let's say the T's are being very telegraphed in where they're going. You want to let them take the control so that they can tell you where they're going. You can play 2 towards B. You can play a double cave setup where you're playing retake on towards B and you're playing for cave control. Let's say one guy's just opping this, or he's playing close, kind of jiggling like this, and you have one guy spotting the ramp, right? And what this will do is if they go up the ramp, this guy can just tuck back into Cheetah. And similar to the way that with Vertigo, let's say you're the side hall players, and if they're coming up towards A site, you want to fight into side hall. You want to make that decision. Do I fight into side hall? Do I fight on the ramp? You want to pick and choose your fights when a team is trying to execute on you. This is just another way that you can do that. Let's say you want to double in sight. You have a guy towards pillar, jiggling like this, jiggling towards Cheetah, and you have another guy towards long, and the T's try and come towards B. This guy can just smoke off Cheetah and fight towards sight, or he can throw a smoke that pops in this doorway to just stuff the Cheetah players. So as a T, you don't really want to go through this smoke because, you know, if someone's holding this, this is a pretty bad fight for you. And this is just another way that you can try and chain together a sight hold. Similar to the concept, both players playing off of each other. Both players are going to be fighting towards the ramp in this scenario. But yeah, at a base level, this is how you're going to be holding sights. But because you've given up so much control, because the T's are being very telegraphed, now another way that you can play retake on mid over towards the A position is you can have one guy, let's say it's an opper, holding this line, so the T's can't jump into temple, they can't flank you. They also can't be on A site without you knowing because the opper's posted on this, and this is a high percentage if they walk out onto A. If the opper is getting this fight, it's going to be because the T's are walked out, right? So the chance you get this kill is pretty high. And for the other rifler in donut, because you want to have 2 in donut if you're playing retake on A or playing retake on mid, so that the donut player doesn't get isolated if there's only one, is the second player will be over here jiggling towards mid, again spotting house cross so that you can't get flanked. Now what you notice is I haven't really talked about that 5th player, right? I've talked about 2 over towards B, I've talked about 2 over towards donut, and this is a core concept in Ancient. So let's go back to the situation I was talking about where the T's are being very telegraphed where they're going. You don't necessarily want to have that 5th player locked into a position. You don't want to have a set up when you're playing retake on everything where every single 5 players' positions are determined before the round starts. The whole reason why you're doing this is because the T's are being telegraphed and you're playing to react off what they do. So what this 5th player's job is to rotate between the sites on where you think they're going to be. And again, for holding sites, you can generally do it with 2 players, but if you have a 3rd there should be a very high chance that you come out on top if the T's try and execute the site. So let's say you guys have a read that the T's are going to go over towards B. They take an all up mid. There's a lot of noise over towards Cheetah. There's a lot of noise over towards B ramp. This 5th player can just rotate over towards B. Now you have 3 towards B. You have an extra set of utility to smoke the ramp, to Molotov them, to flash for your teammates. There's so many things that this player can do to support a site execute. Let's say you have a read over towards A that the T's are going to be going A. This guy can play CT. He can try and Molotov bomb. He can throw nades. He can throw flashes to support for the donut guys. And this guy will turn into kind of your float. This can be the opper. This can be the A player. This guy's role turns into him being a rotator. Now, the reason why I've talked so much about the CT side before I talk about the T side, just like my other videos, is to be able to understand how you should play on T side. You need to understand what the CT sides generally look like. This is where playing a slow T side is extremely important. Let's say I'm at IGL, right? And I want to play a slow round. Let's say the T's are running their mid control and their B control at the same time. They need to make this telegraphed to be able to have the proper utility to be able to take the areas of the map in case you were going to be rushing, right? So what this will look like is, again, a bottom mid smoke, a molly, a couple flashes. The B players will be throwing a ton of util as well. Your B players will be able to communicate to you as a caller what the CTs are doing. What you can do off of this is now you can make reads, right? Let's say, yo, if they're going to chain smoke bottom mid, just wait it out. Wait for them to get rid of all of their utility, and then we can do a few mid flashes and pop out on them. After their utility is drained, let's say they fall off mid and they play a retake setup, now you have all of mid control, and now you can make an end round call. And the reason why you want to play slow on rounds like these is because you're not really being telegraphed. From the CT's perspective, if they're chain smoking bottom mid or they're chain smoking bottom B and you give them no info, they don't know if they're making the right decision to chain smoke bottom mid or chain smoke bottom B. You could be walking out A, you could be waiting for the mid utility to fade, you could be waiting for the B utility to fade, and during all of these options, you could also be planning on popping through their smokes. So there's so many things that the CTs have to consider in this situation, which allows you to be able to catch the CTs off guard wherever you're going to go. And this is what will make you a good caller. Being in these situations enough, if you get enough repetitions in, oh no, they've taken all of mid, oh no, they've taken all of B. Once you've played those scenarios enough, it's easy to talk about theory from the outside looking in, but once you're actually in that situation, it might be tougher to think about on the fly. That's why when you're scrimmaging, you want to have targeted practice. You want to say, this scrimmage, what I'm going to do is let's play retake on mid this scrimmage. Let's not go fast mid. Let's not go fast into B. And let's play extremely slow and really work on our slow game so that in the future, when we do get into the slow game, when we're forced to play in the slow game, because the CTs are exhausting a lot of utility on taking mid, a lot of utility on taking B, in the future, we'll have a lot more in-game experience on how to play around these situations rather than just talking about it. Now, like in my other videos, I'm not going to focus on the micro utility of how to go about these things. What a normal mid control will look like is a house smoke, a cubby Molotov, a couple mid flashes, very basic stuff. But the concepts behind when you do these things is honestly more important than actually doing the utility itself. It's awesome that you know fast house smokes. It's awesome that you know fast cheetah control smokes, but if you don't know when to use them or how to use them, they are useless. The last thing I'll talk about is how to abuse the CT rotations to be able to get into a bomb site. So let's say from a T side perspective, you know that the CTs have all of B, you know that the CTs have all of mid, now you want to try and take one of the controls back. If you're going to take towards B, you generally, at a high level, want to throw 2 of these over the door flashes because, again, that anti-flash setup. This guy in the close cubby will turn after the first flash and stare into the second flash, and this guy over here will get blind by the first one, turn back to look at the doors, and get blind by the second one as well. So now you have a fairly high % chance of taking B control. Let's say the CTs aren't playing in towards B. Now you know that they're playing in towards mid or they're playing retake on sites. If they're playing retakes on site, remember what I was talking about with that 5th player being the rotate. If they're not playing for any control, this is the scenario where you're going to throw fakes and try and abuse the CT rotations. This is why standard defaults are going to be 2 towards B, 3 towards mid, 3 towards B, 2 towards mid, and basically the 2 players are going to be trying to fake control in some side of the map so that the 3 players on the other side can have some sort of unexpectedness to when they go into an area. So what you can do now is, let's say you throw a right side smoke, let's say you throw a left side smoke, you throw a couple flashes, you have the third guy or the second guy who's here with you throwing a couple pieces of utility to make the CTs rotate. Now the other people on the other side of the map have gaps to walk out, because if one guy's going to rotate, that means that one side of the map is going to be weak, there's only going to be 2 people there, and the CTs will have to play retake on a certain area of the map. This is where you will catch gaps on T side. Let's say it's vice versa, and you want to take mid control. You smoke house, you throw flashes, you Molotov cubby, right? You take mid. This might force a rotate over towards A or over towards house, and now this is your gap to go towards B. You want to try and abuse that 5th player that's playing in rotation between the sites to hit the site with the less amount of players. At its core, this is how you call on Ancient. This is how you should visualize the map. You should visualize the rotations. You should understand that there's going to be a rotator if they're playing retake on stuff. There's going to be a CT rotator that's going to be going to where you're throwing the utility, where you're pressuring the map, where he thinks that you're going to be going. But that's going to be it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, go ahead and drop a like and a sub. The support has been insane on these videos. I also do coaching on my Twitch, like I said at the beginning. I will link it down below. Remember, I will have Refrag Codes in the description if you want to use this map for yourself for free. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.